Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Spine Safe Mat Pilates. And today we're working with a PhysioBall. So we're going to start by sitting on the ball. And people ask me, like, how do I know what size ball to use? And so it's really pretty simple. Starting point, the ball that you want to use for sitting is going to be one that when you sit on top of it, your femurs, your thigh bones are about parallel with the ground. So if it's too big, you'll be kind of at a slant, and if it's too small, you'll find that your hips are lower than your knees. Okay, so that's a good starting point. So we'll sit on the ball, feet planted on the floor. Make sure that you're in a safe environment without a lot of objects around you. And then we'll begin by just moving into a little bit of a pelvic tilt. So our big idea here is the shoulders and head are staying in the same place in space, and you're rolling the ball forward and backward by just tilting your pelvis. So from side view, that looks like this, okay? So forward and back. Okay, so we'll just do about 10 of those. And this is just to warm up your spine and your hips. Yeah, good. I'm laughing because my cat Midnight is here in the room, and he's suddenly decided that he is turning into a kitten at 16 or however old he is. All right, so now let's come back to center. And then let's imagine that we can draw a diagonal from our left knee through our right hip. Bring the diagonal forward and bring it back. So it's like you're drawing the first half of the letter X. So forward and back. And you're using your legs, but you're also still continuing to use this idea of these pelvic tilts. Okay. So we'll just do a couple more here. Just keep breathing and try to keep your head and shoulders in the same place in space. And then we'll go to the other side. So now we're doing right knee forward, left hip back. And we're just drawing the other half of with our breath. And let's do one more this direction. Good. And then let's go ahead and come back to center. Shoulders are back and down. Head is retracted, belly's in. We'll just do a circle and try to make the circle just in your hips. And so you might feel that your hips and low back and ribcage spine are kind of moving in a cylinder shape. Okay, we think about the water that we're made of, and we're just trying to make that water just kind of flow in one direction. And it will go the other direction. I'm just making a circle. So this is something that this series that my mentor Paul Check calls Swiss ball pelvic rock. Okay then. So let's come back to center. And now, without thinking too much about it, we'll draw a figure 8. So left knee comes forward, we swing our hip around and back, and then right knee comes forward, swing the hip around and back. And so the figure 8 is seen from above. Midnight, you're going to knock that camera down. The figure 8 as seen from above, going in one direction. And then again, without thinking too much about it, we'll go the other direction. Very nice. Just when we thought we had it down, we had to change directions. Yeah. Okay. So the benefits of doing this are to lubricate the lumbar spine, primarily the hip joints, the sacrum, but also we are working in a very subtle way on our pelvic floors. Okay, so all of this movement, because we're moving all the bones around the pelvic floor, helps to influence the pelvic floor. So now let's go ahead and keep our, would you like out? Okay, I am going to just have a cat removal moment here. Bye-bye. Very good, he nearly knocks the camera down. So now our legs are going to be just parallel in front. And so the wider your legs are, the wider the base of support, and the more narrow your legs are, right? So it's going to be more challenging to balance. So pick something that feels safe and accessible, okay, to start with. And then we'll bring our arms up, out to the side in a letter T shape. And then inhale as we rotate, and we want our arms to be extending out from our shoulders, not like going somewhere else, okay? And exhale, use your abdominals to come back to center. And then as we rotate, inhaling to the other side, just notice whether your weight is shifting, exhale to center. So we'll keep moving with our breath. Notice whether your weight is shifting to one seat bone more. Notice whether you seem to be doing a little bit of a shift in your thigh placement. Try to keep your thighs parallel and just let this be a movement of our spines in a lovely rotation. If you don't have room in your room, you could put your arms like so and reduce your wingspan. Okay, this is also helpful if you find that it's very challenging to judge where your arms are, you know, as opposed to where your rotation is. Let's come back to center, and we'll go ahead and just let that go. So now let's pull into belly, pull up the pelvic floor, and keep your posture nice and tall. And then shift your weight more toward the left side, lift and lower the right leg. And then shift your weight to the right side, lift and lower the left leg. Okay, so this is very quick. And if it doesn't feel safe to you to lift the leg completely, just take weight off of it. Just do tiny little foot lifts as opposed to a larger leg lift. You can feel pretty quickly that the hip flexors begin to, get some real work here, okay? And then let's go ahead and let that go. Now take your arms beside you and reach your right arm forward as your left arm comes back, and then switch. And this is kind of a walking pattern. So when you're doing this rotation, you can keep your head pointed straight forward, your gaze, so that helps the balance, right? But then allow your thorax, your rib cage to rotate as you do this arm swing. And of course, later on, you know, when you replay this class, you could be doing this with weights in your hands, but that makes it much more challenging. And so just thought I would leave that piece out of it, okay? So now, as you bring your left arm forward, lift the right leg. As you bring the left leg forward, lift the right. So we're opposite arm and leg marching. So, and just see how that is, and see if you can stay lifted up off your seat. Tall spine, good. One more on each side. Beautiful job. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just take a moment, take your legs wide, and then have your hands on your thighs and reach your heart forward. So you do a hip hinge. So to make this spine safe for bone density loss, so osteo something or discs, when you hinge forward, you're reaching your heart forward and it's flat. If you do not have, osteopenia or porosis going on in your spine, you can safely round down and maybe grab your ankles or the mat. But if you do have bone density loss, you need to keep flat like this. This is a nice stretch. Okay? So while you're here, you can straighten your legs a little bit and then bend them. And so you might feel a hamstring stretch going on when you straighten your legs back and bend them. And if you're doing this with your hands down to your ankles or the floor, it's just going to be, a little bit more hamstring stretch. But don't feel left out if you have to keep a flat back. It's still plenty hamstring stretch if you need it. And then we'll go ahead, press up on your hands to lift upright. Good. And let's just end with a couple of little pelvic tilts. We'll end our seated portion. Right, just to kind of lubricate the spine again. Okay. So now my favorite way to get up to standing is just to bounce. And once we get enough lift, stand. Okay, isn't that fun? So now, if your knees do not enjoy kneeling, which mine don't appreciate kneeling on a hard surface, you could grab a yoga mat or a towel or a pillow, place it on your mat. So you'll place it on your mat about 1/3 of the way down. And then your ball will be in front of you on the mat. So we'll go to a kneeling position here. Your knees on the soft object if you want that. And so you're in what I call a standing kneel. So we're using our buttock muscles. We're stretching our thighs for just a moment. So from here, roll your shoulders down your back and pull your belly in, right? And just roll the ball forward and then pull your shoulders back. Okay, so this is like a chest expansion, but what we're really doing here, very subtle, you're in hip extension. So you're using your buttock muscles, you're stretching your thighs, you're pulling in your belly. We're just gonna do about 2 more of these. Let your shoulder blades round around your rib cage, bring your shoulder blades back and open your chest. Okay, nice job. So now from here, put your forearms on the ball. I know you've only got 2 arms, but just go with me here, right? Ha ha ha. So that's my don't quit your day job moment. No comedian here. So when you put your forearms on the ball, it's important that we keep our shoulder and our elbow in alignment vertically, okay? So the exercise is not to now go like this with your arms. The exercise is to keep your arms in the same relative position to your body, roll the ball forward and go back into your hip extension, okay? So when you feel that your belly tightens to support you, then you roll back in, pulling more into your belly, okay? Now, if you feel like you need more range, or if you're landing on the ball with your belly or your bosom, you need to bring your arms back further towards you to start the roll out. So we roll out, the elbows are right below the shoulders, and then we pull into our belly to come back in. So I named this one Praying for Abs. And it's just a good old favorite. We roll the ball forward, inhale, exhale, pull belly in to come back. So really emphasize the belly on the way in to pull you back. Okay, so let's just do 2 more here. Inhale and exhale. And 1 more. Inhale and exhale. Beautiful job. So now we'll pull the ball even closer. And this time it's touching your thighs and your hips, right? And your belly, and you can kind of lay over it a little bit. Okay, so now safest position would be to keep your knees down. And so we'll just go ahead and go with that for the moment. And then round your arms around your ball, okay? So make sure the back of the neck is long, pull up into belly, and then come up into a back extension. So emphasize the upper back, your rib cage spine, and your shoulders moving back and down, and then inhale, come back down over the ball. So we want to make sure we stop short of just overarching into the low back on this one and emphasize the upper back. Okay, so we're working against gravity here. So this is directly strengthening our back. Okay. And if you want it to be more challenging, okay, instead of using your arms in this sort of flowing, lovely movement, you could have your hands behind your head, and you could be doing it, or hands behind your ears, you could be doing it here, okay? You could also straighten your legs and make sure that you're on non-skid, or that your feet are up against the wall when you do that, so that you're not rolling out of control. We always want to keep our control in mind. This is Pilates. Okay, and let's just do 1 more. Perfect job. And then just come to rest. Now, if your belly's completely supported, it's okay to just sort of let yourself rest over the ball. We're not going into flexion. We're just relaxing the back by just laying on top of the ball. So we'll take a couple of breaths here. And then we'll be moving the ball slightly forward. So to do that, I've got to kind of crawl forward onto the mat. And the first thing I'll do here is figure out where's my center of mass. So not sure you guys can see me behind the reformer, so I'm going to go ahead and change directions. Okay, so where's my center of mass? Okay, so I find that out by just quickly lifting and lowering all four limbs. And if I end up with a roll back, I know I'm still too far back toward my legs. And if I end up with a roll forward, I know I'm too far forward toward my arms. So what I want to do is, I don't necessarily want to just stay there with all four limbs up. I just want to check, you know, am I pretty well centered, my center of mass over the ball, so the center of gravity is over the ball. Good. Then we pull our shoulder blades down our back. You should have about even weight on the hands and the feet. Okay. And we'll go ahead and just lift our left leg. Okay. So just tighten up your buttock muscle and lift your left leg high enough that you feel your buttock and your hamstring working, but not so high that you feel your low back working. Okay. And then lift your right hand off the mat and find your balance. Okay. So you can feel a lot of wiggling of the ball underneath you probably. So just pull your belly in, pull up your pelvic floor, and just notice what's working. And then we'll go ahead and lower hands and foot. And then we'll take a breath, pull shoulders down, lift to the other leg. So we're lifting with our buttock and our hamstring. We're pulling our belly in. Lift your hand off the mat and just enjoy that couple of breaths wiggling about. So this is your stabilizers working. So we like to work the stabilizers because there are support muscles that are the important ones that keep our bones in alignment so that the bigger muscles can move us about. Okay, and we put our hands and our foot back down. All right, so then let's go ahead now. Again, lift the left leg. Okay, lift the right hand enough that you could just slide a magazine underneath it. And now let's make the alphabet with our left foot. So we want to do this, so A, B, right? So draw it on the wall behind you. And we want to make it so that it is the whole leg moving so that you feel that your buttock and your hip and your hamstring are all working together, not just wiggling your ankle about, right? So big difference, okay? And if it feels too challenging to keep your hand lifted, the opposite hand lifted, just have it down on the mat. Okay, so we'll go to about M, about the middle of the alphabet. I'm always curious whether people draw their letters and then rest. Just slide on back to your knees and just give yourself a little break for a moment. I'm always curious when I ask people to write the alphabet, whether it's, you know, are you writing in capitals or lowercase or cursive, you know, and I write in it as a combo. It just seems like my brain just says, let's just write the alphabet in, you know, whatever is most efficient for the body. Okay, let's come forward and let's check our center of mass and center of gravity again. So we lift and lower. It's like if you're pitching forward, move back. If you're pitching back, move forward. Find where you're balanced. And then we'll keep our left toes planted on the mat, lift the right leg, pull shoulders down, maybe lift the left hand, maybe keep it down, and just continue on, starting with N. Just go ahead and finish your alphabet. Yeah. And this side is, for me, more challenging. So it's not my left leg is not the stronger leg. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my hand down because it's just too wonky with it up. And I just hope that you feel safe and welcome to do the same thing if you end up with more challenge balancing. It's always safety first. And Z. Okay, good. And we'll let that go and just drift back and give yourself a little stretch. All right, that was very nice. So a lovely stretch that we can do here on the ball. If you come completely off the ball, and be careful about your shoulders here, is to do a little child's pose, but have your hands on the ball, shoulders down the back. And to protect your shoulders, if your shoulders feel kind of pinchy with your arms straight, just bend your elbows, okay? So this will give you a little bit of a chest stretch. If that does not feel good to you, no worries. Just shove the ball out of the way and do our double fist stack forehead on the fist, wide-legged child's pose for just a moment. We'll take one more breath. And let's go ahead and we'll take our pillow or our kneeling pad again. Now let's come around to where we're in a standing kneel with the ball to the side of us. So the first thing we want to make sure we have is a nice straight line from our knees to our shoulders through the ear hole out the top of the head. So we're going to check in with our abs, pelvic floor up, abs in. You've got your glutes engaged, so a little booty squeeze, maybe a little thigh stretch if you're tight, and shoulders are back and down. And then we'll bring our non-ball hand up in the air, shoulders are down, the other hand is on the ball. So now this is just a guide, so we're not weight bearing on the ball. We're gonna roll the ball and feel as if you were arching your hip away from the ball, right? So as we come to the side, we kind of almost want to feel like we're swaying our hip over to the side to stretch the side waist. We're not really moving the hip, but that's kind of the feeling of it. Okay, so this is a lovely standing or little side kneeling mermaid. Okay. And we'll just do a couple of more on this side. And last one. Perfect. And if you have room in your floor space, you just roll your ball around to the other side without moving your knees. Do that. I have a space challenged over here, so I have to kind of move over. So your arm comes up, other side, shoulders down, corners of the mouth are lifted, belly, stretch, glutes, right? Check, check. And we'll inhale over and exhale, come up. Just keep breathing and just feel this lovely side stretch. And just a couple more here. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and come up to standing. So what my question is, if we're all in a standing kneel already, can you get up to standing without using your hands? And it's just, this is just a little challenge. So if you tuck your toes under, put your one leg forward, can you just go ahead and rise up? And if that's not possible, then that's a good thing to work on as a strengthening move at home. So now we'll take the ball and we'll have the ball in front of us. We're just going to hold the ball. Now, the bigger the ball, the heavier it is, right? So if this starts to feel like it's not a terrific thing for you to do, you can use a virtual ball, I call it. So we'll go ahead and start at the front of the mat and then step back, okay, and forward, and alternate your legs, and back and forward, okay? So I'm just going to take a nice wide step. Okay, good. Now we've done that a few times on each side. Now we're going to take an action with the ball. So now you step back, take the ball to the side that you stepped back on, and then as you come forward, bring the ball to center. Step back with the other leg, take the ball to the side. Okay, so we're just rotating a little bit, taking the ball to the side. Good. Now try taking the ball to the side of the front leg. Ball and center. Ball and center. Keep your belly tight while you're doing this. You can feel your shoulders working. Abs are working because you're asking them to. Last one on each side. Good. And then we'll do one last thing, okay? Step back with one leg into a lunge. And I'm just kind of resting the ball on my knee for a moment because, yeah, it's heavy. Pull your shoulders back, pull your belly in, and kind of drop your tailbone down. And then staying in this stance, bring the ball down to one side, bend your knees a little if that feels okay. As you come back for center with the ball, straighten your legs and then drop down on the other side. So the range of motion of the lunge is up to you. It's up to your knees, your balance, okay? And it can be a tiny indication, or if you're feeling real buff today, you could be dropping straight down. Now, if you are doing the lunge, remember to bend the back knee. So if you start by bending the back knee, you go straight up and down as opposed to moving forward, right? So let's go ahead and finish up that set. Come back to center, step forward with the leg, step back with the other leg. Just kind of rest the ball on your thigh for a second while you get everything organized. So we've got belly, shoulders, smile, abs again, okay? And we rotate the ball to one side and maybe drop down into a full lunge or an indication of a lunge, or maybe just work on our balance standing, okay? And if you are lunging down, think about bending your back leg first. That's right, beautiful job. So you more go up and down, yeah. And keep breathing. Good, let's do one more on each side. Nicely done. Okay, so now it's time to lay down. How do we use the ball on our mat, keep its spine safe, and what size ball do we need? And this ball is pretty large. You could use a smaller ball for laying down. So I actually have a smaller ball in my studio that could be a little bit nicer to use. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And we'll lay to one side. Come onto our backs. And then organize your head and neck so that the back of the neck is long. Then we'll put our legs over the ball, and put your legs over the ball so much that it's like you were sitting on the ball again, okay? So we have to be mindful about bone density loss in anything that we do where we're elevating our hips or we're doing anything in, elevating our head. We just need to be mindful about going into flexion. So first thing we'll do is get the ball as close to our bum as we possibly can. And then place your hands on your belly. So head is neutral, neck is neutral. Just squeeze the ball with your legs. And you can feel your hamstrings, the backs of the thighs, and your calf muscles engage. And then let it go. So now put your hands down on the upper thighs and squeeze the ball, and feel how if you really squeeze hard, then you start to feel these muscles up here working. What we'd like to do is get to a point where we're squeezing enough to turn on the backs of the legs without turning on the fronts of the legs, okay? So let's go ahead and just see if we can find that sweet spot. It feels kind of like a squeezing down to me, as if rather than pulling in, I'm pressing down into the ball, if that helps at all. So now hands on belly, squeeze the ball, pull your pelvic floor up and pull your belly in, and then let it go, okay? You squeeze down, belly in, so you drop your belly down and then let it go. Breathe, squeeze the ball, pull your belly in and let it go, okay? And then if you don't feel like you need the feedback from your hands, you can just put your hands down next to you. Okay, and squeeze and pull your belly in and then let it go. So we'll do about 3 more here. Squeeze, pull the belly in and then let it go. And 2, squeeze the ball, pull your belly in and let it go. And last one, squeeze the ball, pull your belly in and let it go. Nicely done. So just keep the ball where it is and take your arms out and begin to rock the ball side to side. So you're holding on to the ball with the backs of your legs gently. And your arms are stretched out. So you're just gonna, enjoy that kind of strange sound the ball makes. It's kind of like a rubber boat bumper. If you've ever sailed or been on a boat, you know, you go to the marina and they all have those rubber boat bumpers hanging down so they don't scratch the hulls on the marina. So let's go ahead and just do one more to each side. So this is just a little release, tiny bit of ab work here. Okay. Now let's take our hands behind the base of our skull. So your knuckles are down on the mat and your head is resting in a hammock you just made of your hands. And you can have your elbows winged up a little bit so that, you know, we can move in our upper spine. So now nod your chin, okay, just a little bit, and then pull your rib cage down toward the mat and see if you can come up into a head hover, which means if I straighten my fingers, I can still touch them down to the mat. So I'm not in flexion. I've just kind of hovered my head, neck, and not really my shoulders up above the mat slightly. Okay, so now we're going to combine the first exercise with this new thing. So squeeze the ball, squeeze down, pull your pelvic floor up, pull your belly in, and then see if you can sink your ribs down toward the mat and come up into a head hover. Good. And then come back down and release everything. Okay, squeeze the ball, pelvic floor, belly in, press your rib cage down, and your head, neck, and shoulders are all integrated. So head hover, and then come back down. Now, if you want to make this more challenging, go for an isometric of the lower half. So keep the ball squeezed, keep the pelvic floor, keep the belly in, and press your ribs back toward the mat, and let yourself sink back down, press the ribs back toward the mat, and sink down, right? So your choice if you want to do a complete reset every single rep. Well, we'll just do a few more reps. Now, if you do not have bone density loss, in other words, osteopenia or porosis or disc issues, right? Disc derangement or herniation, then you can continue up further. Okay, so you can come up and look at your wide flat belly and then come back down. Okay, so that is available if you do not need to stay in neutral, which would be anybody who has osteopenia porosis. Okay, so we'll just do a few more of whatever variation. Yep. And then let it go. Unwind your arms and take the ball to one side. Maybe linger a little bit longer. Exhale, ball to center. Inhale, ball to the other side. Maybe linger a little bit. Come to center. Breathing. Exhale, center. Breathe. Exhale, center. One more on each side. Perfect job. We'll just recommit to the ball, right? Like we're sitting on it. And hands come behind the base of the skull again. Good. So now pull into belly, squeeze down on the ball, find your hamstrings in your booty, pull up your pelvic floor, pull your belly in, and then we'll press our rib cage down toward the mat just to get the little head hover. And then from here, let's think about a circle on the ceiling that we can paint with our nose or our forehead, right? And you can make the circle any color you want. Years ago in 3rd grade, I was asked what my favorite color was, and I said rainbow. And so I think about a rainbow circle as I'm painting this in a circle, oval shape on the ceiling. And you can feel as you're doing this that your belly is working, you know, in this sort of a hula, right? So just do one more in this direction. And just be very careful that your head, neck, shoulders, and rib cage are all moving together, that you know, sometimes when we get tired, there's a tendency for like just the head to be moving, and that's not ideal. So if that happens to you, it's just because your upper abs are a little tired. You can just take a rest and then come back to it. So head, neck, and shoulders are all moving together. Yeah. And 2 and 1. Beautiful job. Okay, we'll just let that go and just rest down for a moment. So in our rest period, let's put our feet on top of the ball, roll the ball out, and then turn your toes out on the ball. And then when you bring the ball back in, your knees come out and your soles of your feet may be together. And this is a lovely rest position. So this is like a Baddha Konasana or a frog leg, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But you can just sort of use the ball here to, you know, give yourself a lovely inner thigh and low back reset. Arms are out. Take a couple more breaths into your chest. Feel your heart opening with the corners of the mouth. Make your eyes soft. Separate your teeth. Keep breathing. And then we'll go ahead and just take our legs out and parallel the legs, and then pull the ball back in and pull it back underneath you like you're sitting on it again, only we're laying down. Isn't this fun? So we'll go ahead and hug the ball as close in as we can. And now place your left hand on underneath your head, and your right arm is going to cross over with your palm open. Okay, so now squeeze down on the ball, pelvic floor up, belly in, press your ribs down. And then if you need to keep your head down because of bone density loss, your head stays down, but you're just like reaching past your thigh and then come back. So you see there's a rotation. So your right arm is reaching past your left thigh with an open palm, and your right shoulder comes off the mat and then comes back down to the mat. Okay, so now if you do not have bone density loss and you want to go a little further, you can try coming up. Just make sure that your side waist is staying long. So the idea is to rotate and reach, okay? And then to add on to that idea, you can even just stay up and do little pulses. Reach, 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 reach. Okay, so something for everybody. And we'll go ahead and come back down and switch hands. So now the right hand is behind the base of the skull. Left hand reaches across, palm is open to the side. And for bone density loss, we squeeze the ball, pull belly in, pull pelvic floor up, and just rotate, keeping the ball at center and reach, and your head stays down. So the only thing that's leaving the mat is the left shoulder. Okay, and so this is a lovely rotation. We're just focusing on dropping our ribs down toward the mat. And then without bone density loss, you can come up and down. Okay. And or choose the little pulses at the top, still squeezing on the ball, still pelvic floor up, still belly in, and supporting your head in your hand. All right, that was fun. Let's go ahead and rest that down. So, so now we're going to get into a little bit more choreography. So let's take the ball out and have your heels on top of the ball. Good. Now, go ahead and take your hands behind the base of your skull. You're winging your elbows. Now, we'll bring the right leg off the ball and then bring your knee in. Okay, good. So far, so good. Now, just to be clear, the right leg now is going to be in the air the whole time. It's not going to be going back down on the ball. So you pull the ball in with the left leg, extend the right leg out over the ball in the air, and then take the ball back out with your left leg. Now, if you feel like you're not getting a good range of motion, you might have started too close to you with the ball. So your heel needs to be at least on the apex of the ball, right? And the heel can actually start behind the apex of the ball closer to you. And let's just go ahead and just give the other side a turn. So left leg bends, your left leg is in the air, your right heel is on the ball, the right heel drives the ball in and out, the left leg extends in the air, opposing the right leg. So you know that this seems an awful lot like our crisscross pattern, doesn't it? Yeah. So now we're gonna take the left leg on the ball again, right leg in tabletop in the air. Now choosing your height of your head, neck, and shoulders based on your bone density. Rotate toward the bent right leg. And if you wish to come up, you can if you don't have bone density loss. And then as you extend the right leg in the air and the left leg draws the ball in, rotate toward the left leg. So you're always rotating toward the bent knee. Okay, so we'll just do 5 and 4 and 5. Good. And then switch legs. Rotate toward the bent knee. And 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. And rest down. Beautiful job. So now heels are on top of the ball. Maybe a little bit of your calf as well. Pull your shoulders down your back. Keep the back of the neck long. Then engage your buttock muscles and see if it's okay to lift your hips. Oh boy, this is fun. Notice, let's go ahead and lengthen our spines as we set them down. Notice whether your feet wanted to turn out a lot, and notice whether you feel anything under your knee, like behind the knee joint. If behind the knee joint, let's do another lift. Press down with your arms. If behind the knee joint feels at all icky, if it feels like there's a strainy kind of a stretch or any kind of discomfort, just simply bring the ball closer to you. So then your calves would be more on the ball, okay? And so we need to be able to do the lift without compromising the knee joint. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another lift and just stay there for a moment. Now squeeze your booty, pull your belly in, and now bend your elbows so the backs of the arms are on the floor. And then go ahead and lift the backs of your arms off the mat and see if you can keep your balance. Isn't this fun? So, yeah, we like the ball. And then we'll go ahead and lower down. Very nice. Let's give ourselves a little stretch for a moment before we continue. Take your left leg behind the thigh with both hands and then straighten your leg into your hands. And we can do this as an active stretch, bending and straightening. Or you can just hold the leg. And we'll go ahead and switch the leg that we're stretching. Pull behind the thigh, straighten your leg into your hands. Good, we'll let that go. So now, arms are back down on the mat. Back of the neck is long, and you've chosen your fulcrum, right? So if your knees didn't feel so hot, you're more closer onto your calf muscles. Pull into belly, pull up pelvic floor, and then lift your hips using your buttock muscles. So you can go ahead and keep your arms down, bend your knees to bring the ball in, and then straighten your legs to take the ball out again. Bend and straighten. Yes, your hips are still up. Now again, we don't want to strengthen one body part and compromise another, right? So if your knees truly do not enjoy this at all, you can keep your hips down and just push your heels into the ball as you take the ball in and out. And that will exercise your hamstrings. So you just press down. And that's a way to do it with keeping your hips down if that's needed. Okay, good. So let's just do one more. And then we'll lower on down. All right. Let's forget the ball for just a second and take your one leg in both hands Almost really have to kind of get the ball completely out of the way here. And we'll go into our single long leg stretch. So we'll just switch back and forth, give ourselves a little active stretch. And if you like doing this with your head lifted, and again, do not have osteo somebody going on, you can come on up. Just enjoy the hamstring stretch, whatever variation you're doing. And we'll let that go. Good. So let's take our knees in our hands and take our knees in mirror image circles. Yeah. And we'll go the other direction. Very nice. And then, boy, do I have a treat for you. Take your feet on top of the ball, and we're not going to do a lift, so have the ball be a little further away from you. And then take your right ankle and place it above your left knee on your thigh, and then pull the ball in for a lovely figure four stretch. So you will hopefully feel this in your right hip and buttock area. And what you can do with the ball that's really special in this stretch is you can take the ball away and pull it in. So those of us that might feel a little tight, or maybe tighter than normal, in this area, when you are actively moving through an area that's tight like this, it just gets everything warmed up and gets the tissues moving relative to each other. And you can really get a better stretch. Like, if you move a few times in and out and then come back into the stretch and just hold the stretch, you may find that you can really feel a better release. So remember that we don't need to just hold static either. At the end point, you can kind of sway your hips from side to side. Yeah, and get into wherever is needed. So we'll take 2 more breaths here on this first side in the figure four stretch. And then we'll go ahead and press out, unwind the first leg, put your other leg, left ankle on top of right thigh, pull the ball in, and then choose whether you're, just want to stay there or whether you want to try that little in and out just to prime the tissues to stretch. Yeah, and when you're ready, just kind of hold the stretch in there, and you can choose whether you can experiment with some different angles to stretch in the hip. Just focus on your breathing. Release your molars, jaw, eyes, face. Did you know that it takes less energy and fewer muscles to smile than frown? Isn't that interesting? Since our brains and our bodies are very efficient, then it could be argued or postulated that smiling is our natural state of being, because our bodies always want to be more efficient. And we'll go ahead and press out. Good, and unwind. That's it. And then go ahead and just hug the ball back in, and we'll take a stretch over to the side. Just let the stretch happen. It's more of an active stretch because you have to keep your abdominals engaged. Exhale through center, inhale off to the other side. Arms are outstretched. We're giving ourselves a lovely moment here to open up the chest. All right, so far so good. Maybe time for a little bit of a water break here. and now we have not done our sideline work. And I do believe this ball is a little big to do sideline work. So let's set the ball aside. And we'll just lay down, head supported, and line up your head to tail with the mat. And then pull up your side waist and have your knees bent. And we'll just go into our simple clams. So now in our simple clams today, focus on pressing your bottom leg down to the mat as you rotate the top leg up. And then let's take our forearm behind our back. Keep your side waist lifted. Keep breathing. So many things, I know. And feel where you can really go with the top leg. Now we can try tempo change here too. So lift and then lower, 2, 3. Lift and lower, 2, 3, right? So think about some different tempos that you can use. The more time under tension we give our muscles, the more work we're actually doing in the muscles versus the joints. Okay, last one, lift, and 1, 2, 3. Now going straight away into a single leg straight up lift. So make sure that when you do this lift, you are lifting your knee and ankle at the same rate of speed. So our friends with hip replacements, we need to be careful about the tendency maybe to internally rotate. It's not safe for all hip replacements. So just make sure, now keep pressing into the mat with your bottom leg. Great. And then go ahead and take your fingers in front of you and shoulders down, straighten your leg. Yeah. And just let's make some circles with the top leg, 5 in each direction. So keep your side waist lifted, shoulders down, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nicely done. We'll just bring our limbs back in. Maybe give ourselves a little bit of a Pilates massage. Good. And then let's come up to our forearm, pull our shoulder blade down our back and press our waist away from the mat. So we've got an alignment of shoulder and elbow that's supported, okay, that supports our body. And if you want more, lift up, side plank. If you want more, then go to your feet, okay? You can reach up toward the ceiling. You can look down toward the floor if you want, or straight ahead. Yeah, keep your muscles engaged. Sit on down and let's switch our legs around. So roll over to the other side, right? So laying down so that your head to tail lined up with the back of the mat. Okay, legs are bent. Side waist is lifted, belly's in. Press down into the mat with your bottom leg as you rotate the top leg up. And then I'm just going to use my forearm again behind me just to feel like where is really that end range of hip rotation versus when my body wants to roll back. It's just an interesting way to keep track of ourselves. And then we'll try that tempo again. Lift and 1, 2, 3, and lift and 1, 2, 3. Okay. And if you notice that extending the time under tension, well, I feel that I start getting more of a burn in the glute a little bit, sooner than if I was just going to be doing, reps at a 1-1-0-1 tempo, which is lift and lower. Okay, all right. And so then press down with your bottom leg and lift the whole top leg. Right? So you can really feel this heating up. And you might feel it heating up a little bit more quickly today, partly because of the tempo change, and then partly because we're really focusing on pressing that bottom leg down into the mat. Make sure that, again, your ankle and foot are lifting at the same rate as your knee. And 2, and 1, and then extend the top leg, 5 little circles in each direction. You can have your spider fingers in front of you. Keep lifting the side waist and breathing. 4, 5, and change direction. 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, and bend. Oh my goodness. Well, we needed to do that, that's for sure. And then come on up to your forearm. Shoulders down your back. Corners of the mouth are lifted. And we'll just start by pressing away from the mat and then lifting up the hips if that feels appropriate. And then if you need more, lifting up from your feet. And breathing. And then we'll lower back down. Beautiful job. And let's just go ahead and swing our legs around into our Z sit. Pull your shoulder blade down your back. Lift your arm up toward the ceiling to create length. Take a breath and then exhale over into a side stretch. Take another breath and another. And then exhale, come on up. See if you can find your balance. Hold on to your other shin. Find a counter stretch. And then come back to balance. Float on down. Find your side stretch again, and then decide if you want to continue on into Mermaid. So inhaling toward the ceiling, exhale, pull your belly in and rotate, or should I say the rotating Mermaid. And you can stay here and breathe. If this bothers your knee, go onto your back for a figure 4 stretch. We did that earlier. And if it's not enough and you do not have any issues with bone density loss in your femoral neck or your hip, you could try the Pigeon Pose variation from yoga. As we breathe, just pay attention to how your in-breath kind of expands your body, of course. And so then it's stretching your tissues and your fascia, and your out-breath, things kind of relax. And so this sort of gentle ebb and flow to our breath. It's kind of like, you know, when you go to the beach and it's not a real beach, maybe it's in our area, Doran Beach, where the waves are very gentle. You just come in and out. That's your breath, moving the water in your body. Take 2 more breaths here. And then we'll inhale to unwind. Exhale, come on up. Let's switch our legs around. Good. Support shoulder is pulled down into the body. Other arm raises up for length. Breathe. And come on over into your side stretch. Take another breath. And take another breath. And then we'll exhale, come up. Balance. Hold on to your shin. Counter stretch. And then come back to balance. Look down and find your side stretch. You can stay here if this feels good, or continue along, inhaling, opening your heart toward the ceiling. Exhale to create room for your rib cage to rotate. And we know we have options here, so we can take them as needed. Just keep breathing. Find that ebb and flow. Find the ocean in your breath and your body. Take one more breath. We'll inhale to unwind. We'll exhale to come on up. Nicely done, everybody. Let's keep your shoulders back and down, your abs in until I see you again.